there's been, I think, like 4 big announcements here, on this episode. So, like, definitely, if it ever seems like we're ghosts, like, this is what we've been up to, guys.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by Indepreneur.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to the original Creative Juice podcast with your original hosts.
The original cast.
Circa and Corrin. Yes, exactly. I was gone for my honeymoon, and Jack filled in here at the podcast, which I'm sure was a treat because that guy's awesome. And then Corrin obviously wasn't physically here when we did our physical in-person podcast here at Indepreneur HQ with Dukes. But now we're finally back to our old ways. Feel good?
You always got to return to the golden, right? Go back to what you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
When in doubt.
I'm excited about it. I know you and Jack talked about ways that artists can collaborate on their marketing, which is awesome. I hope that was a fantastic discussion. And today we're here to kind of carry that torch with sort of mentorship and collaboration month here at Indepreneur, and talk about how we plan to foster mentorship and collaboration in our community over the next year here at Indepreneur, especially since Corrin came on and she's been sort of like kicking my butt to do a little more long-term planning, because you guys know I'm a little bit fly-by-night. And as we get more long-term planning going on, we can look forward a year and kind of say, where do we want to go? And maybe we don't get exactly there, but we trend towards it. And we definitely have some awesome things kind of planned for 2019 and even 2020 in regards to mentorship and collaboration and sort of indies helping indies, which really starts from a place of like where we started as a company back in 2017, our founding mission. I kind of came out on a live stream and said, I want to help create 1 million independent musicians who have a business around their creativity. And, that's sort of a lofty, audacious goal, but I needed something that kind of scared the shit out of me so that I took it very seriously, and I worked really hard to get there, before I perish. And I'd say that we've made it a lot further because of the largesse of the goal. And now we're in a position to take it really seriously and kind of say mathematically, like, to get there, we need to create people who help musicians, right? Even if that's certifying agencies that can do smart and actual, real, reliable digital marketing for musicians. If that means, bringing up coaches and mentors that can help other people along the path or help people, where they've already kind of journeyed. And that certainly sprang up organically, right? Like very early on in this community, we've kind of had that already going on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and we've talked about that before too, about how, we're seeing indies change careers. We're seeing indies help each other and then also charge each other, but because they're very good at a new skill now, and so I think it's been, really cool. But at the same time, like, not only do we want to embrace that that's happening, but even integrate it into the ways that we're making Indepreneur better and more of a service to the community. And so that's been, I think, we've also had like a year and, almost a year. Indie Pro is almost about to clear a year of being live. And so we've had about a year of seeing like what people are talking about in the group, what are the things that they need the most help with? What are the questions that get lots of answers? And what are the questions that get next to no answers because people are like, and so kind of evaluating all those things so that we can make sure that we're covering all the bases necessary, giving everyone the tools that they need and not giving them tools that they don't need, So I think that that's been a really great learning experience for me. And so it's kind of shaped the different things that I'm like, okay, now these are the nexts,
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's definitely, taken many forms. As Corrin mentioned, we've had indies in the group offer their services now that they kind of know their way around pretty much all the different strategies that we run even at the agency level, and they're like, you know, someone's like, I need help. I can't do this stuff myself. And some people are just like, you know, they don't have a lot of FitFon, which at the team we call figure it the fuck outedness. And some people just don't have it, you know? And so they reach out for help.
Right.
And there's indies with a lot of FitFon who are like, you know what? I know how to do it. I'm going to help them out. And, you know, are able to sort of supplement their income by helping those who just really have trouble with the tech stuff. And so that's happened naturally. We've had indies since the beginning with, you know, in our Facebook group and our community, helping each other. Just, you know, people reach out for help. And over time, it went from me answering every question in the group, which is certainly what it was. And that first set of months is like, I was furiously spending like 3 hours a day just like ripping through questions, to now like mostly indies have it handled. I sometimes pop into threads and just say, I'm not needed here, you know? So definitely that's grown over time. And then also we've had some indies, like Corrin said, transition their occupation. So Ed Isola of the 502s was one of our first students here at Indepreneur, took FanFinder very early on, ran an album launch, and that was successful to the degree where he was going to be touring a lot, and his bank job, that didn't comport, right? And so he had to leave the bank job so that he could tour, but to fill in, he's able to work with us here at the agency servicing other indies. So there's definitely a indies helping indies vibe kind of already to what we're doing. And now it's just time to kind of standardize that and give it a way that it can continue to grow and reliably do so without all this disorganization.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because like the Facebook group is great and we're always trying to like push people to the search bar. But there are some things that we talk about so frequently that it can be a little difficult for the newbies to find the answers, you know? And there's a lot of different people who are kind of going at their own paces, right? Whether they started with Indepreneur way back in, you know, early 17 or whether they've come on yesterday, there's probably a different kind of knowledge gap in there, you know? So I think that's one thing that I've been kind of excited about working on is this kind of like a guided, you know, everybody's been asking like, what's the roadmap? What do I do first when I get into Indie Pro? Like, what are the things that I should pursue in what order, you know? And it's tough because it depends on how much you have already built when you come in. And so building out some things like that where, you know, we can provide some mentorship between indies, like facilitating that kind of mentorship, as well as mentoring, you know, from the company level and from the staff, mentoring people as well. Right. Those are kind of the different tiers of mentorship that we're trying to build out. And collaboration and mentorship tend to come into each other, and there's like a gray area between them where it's both or neither, or, you know, like there's an and/or thing that happens. Yeah. And so kind of building out what the different pieces of that gray space look like is, you know, what we're working on now. And I think, you know, everybody kind of needs a mentor in, you know, various parts of their life. And so the more that we can figure out how to create those, either organically or, you know, kind of forcing it a little more from the company level is going to be advantageous to everybody involved.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so Corrin has been working on something over, you know, the past quarter, and it's really starting to materialize. Something which I'll totally let you talk about, but just to like kind of couch that is just like there's so many indies who have stepped up and taken a leadership role, or really taken the material that we teach and said, dude, not only do I love this, but I get this. Like, this makes so much sense to me and I understand it. And they take it and do it better than I could have ever done, Basic Printer. And so, so, you know, like we want to find a way to give them a platform as well to help other indies. And, you know, we do that through trying to grow our company so that we can hire more and really put them in a position to use that talent that they've cultivated. But also we've done programs. We did Indie Founder, and Indie Founder was our coaching program. And it, you know, it was something that we ran in a beta and never really made an official push for. We only had so many indie founders, I think less than a dozen ever. And it was just a 3-month program where we're going to help you set up typically an album launch. And, we're going to walk you through all of it. We're going to task you out each week as if you were an agency employee, and you're going to do all the work, but we're going to meet with you once a week to run the demos, which is kind of how our team works. If we have an agency client, one of our employees is handling a sprint for them, doing all the tasks in a week, and then meeting with them at the end of the week to kind of load up the next week and also talk about what they got done this week.
Right.
And we were just kind of providing that once a week coaching call where we're helping them task out. We're answering any questions they had, clearing up any confusions. Problem with Indie Founder is that it was definitely very individualized. We can't make much of an impact if we're working with one single person for over a 3-month span. And then also it kind of breached into scope creep is what we call it at the agency level. Most agencies call it this, where we ended up doing a lot of the stuff that we were tasking them out to do just because, they would come in the middle of the week in a little bit of a panic. And it's like, I don't know how to do this. And I just I'm about to give up. And it's like, let's not do that. Right. So we definitely wanted to take it back into the lab and try to workshop something that made a little bit more sense and could avoid those pitfalls, both with the time consideration, but also with the scope creep. And I feel like Corrin's really doing it.
Well, I mean, for me, Indie Founder was really cool because, agency's great, right? And we get to do a lot of cool things at the agency level. And obviously budgets are bigger and whatever, but there is less, and it's great. There's nothing wrong with IndieX, obviously. But when I think about how Founder made me feel, it was a way more of in the trenches kind of existence,
right?
Where you're helping a lot of people come up from nothing, who are starting over or who have been doing this but haven't been able to get the traction yet,
right?
And I think there's something that is very just quintessential about that phase of existence, right? Which is Circa. I was watching one of the Full Stack Creative videos this time, and it was after the castaway phase, right?
Right.
That it's that phase. What is that phase called?
The hard times.
Yeah, the hard times, right? And so there's the hard times, right? And there's a lot of people who are in those hard times, right? And are starting to try to get into the next phase where they're learning and assessing and pushing their actual minds and their function to be a creative as a job, Yeah. And so Indie Founder felt like this cool way that facilitated that continued growth so that they could get to those coveted last phases.
Yeah.
And, so I missed that. And I think there was something that Cirque saying, time wise and just financially, and how much time we ended up doing it and what we were charging for and whatever. It was just wasn't feasible to keep doing it. It wasn't sustainable, which bummed me out. So I was like, well, how can we replicate that, right? And kind of get everybody where they've got a community, but maybe it's a little bit more focused on exactly certain steps. And we were kind of thinking about how we could set up a roadmap and maybe put a quiz in the site so that people could kind of figure out what training would be best for them next. But then I was like, well, what if we did a class that is Indie Founder, but it is, 12, 15 people somewhere in there who are all kind of going at a similar pace. And I give you homework and you have things that you need to go do for the week. And then you come back and I kick your butt to keep it going, because I think the hardest part is going to be those first stages. That's where a lot of people drop off.
Yeah.
They get into Fan Finder, they get super excited, and it either goes great and then they're like, well, that was enough. Or they were like, that didn't go well on my first try and I'm stuck, So facilitating a mentorship from our level for people who are in that, kind of like Indepreneur 101, how do you get this stuff in place and what order? And, I have a specific question about my situation. Can you give me some insight into that? And so, now we're looking at doing a mentorship class,
yes.
Right? We haven't named it. Cirque, did you come up with a clever name yet?
I would love for it to just be called Indie Founder. I think that I love that name. And
there you go.
Creating people who truly feel like they're founders of a business is super important. Like,
Yeah.
founder culture is something I picked up working with tech agencies and like what it means to be a founder and taking that ownership. And that fits right into the whole, like how we work, how to run your music business. If you've taken that training, you know all about it. It's like that sort of organized week to week, like team culture, and building a team, like all that goes into learning how to be a founder and working with other people in a team and delivering. And so I think this is a better representation of what that name kind of indicated. I love that it solves multiple problems that we indicated, just kind of doing a postmortem on Indie Founder as a program. Like one of our biggest success stories with Indie Founder was Carol. And we did end up, having to jump in a fair amount with Carol, but she definitely took a lot of ownership over it, She was definitely like in the trenches with us trying to figure stuff out. And we only really had to jump in when something was just unfigure-outable, right? And so, we want it to be more like that. But I think just the fact that, first of all, like everyone's starting at the same place or near the same place definitely adds to that camaraderie. It also puts the impetus on everyone in the class to deliver every single week and to keep up with the rest of the class. And then I think it definitely solves the problem of we didn't have much of a curriculum with Indie Founder. We took people at a lot of different stages in their career. We took people with a lot of different needs, and therefore we couldn't really standardize what we were trying to accomplish. But by starting everyone off at relatively the same place, all going towards the same goal, which is to set up some meaningful assets in their artistic business or in their artistic career, I think that really, really gets at the heart of what was great about Indie Founder and what we don't want to carry forward into the next iteration. So I have to say, I can't wait to see, this sort of thing at play.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, so we're also going to be creating like a special Facebook group for the class, right? That will really, the membership of that group will only exist for the period of time that you're in the class. So it's meant to be very, very timely. And the reason why is so that you can still go in the indies, our standard indies group and learn stuff over there. But at the same time, like that keeps the conversation really tight in the class. Right. And we're also hoping that we can help people kind of develop some relationships with people who, they can see are in a similar place to them or maybe have, contrasting talents or skills like Jack and I were talking about last time, where it's like, okay, you're really good at building out ClickFunnels stuff and I'm really great at running campaigns. So let's help each other with this, and work doubly fast. So there's going to be opportunities for people to kind of identify maybe some collaborators in that group as well, since they're working on similar things.
Yeah.
So yeah, including that and then having an instructor who's kind of keeping everyone on the same line and meets with them every week in a very focused kind of structure. I'm really excited about it. I think that it's going to give everyone a really cool opportunity to kind of focus down and check the box,
Yeah.
And like we always say, like ship, right? And the worst thing you can do is get stuck without a plan. And so the intent of this is to set up the plan for you and then be like, yo, did you finish this? You were supposed to do this week. Did you get this done? Okay, let's go. Now we can go to the next thing.
I gotta say, I love that element of it, which is like when I got into videography, I would have, and this was like 6 months ago, I would have killed to have someone like who I see every day who was getting into it at the exact same pace at the exact same time.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like to have someone who you can be like, dude, last night I was reading this and I figured out this about, my camera. And then that sparks an idea for them and they're doing the same thing for you. That is priceless.
Right.
Like every time I've had that in my life, it's made the on-ramping to a certain skill so much more pleasant and so much more fun is to have a comrade in that sort of discovery phase and trying stuff out. Yeah. And so to be able to provide that for people is awesome. And then also to have a format through which we could teach a lot of things. I mean, we could, I think obviously there's a class where it's like, let's set up an album launch, but maybe something less intense, like, hey, let's all set up Shopify stores, right? everyone in this group needs a Shopify store. You're at that stage in your career. Or let's plan out a tour. Like there's just so many different things that we could tackle through this format, and finding success with it where we're just pumping out people who are psyched and who know a lot more than when they got in and who have set something up that works. Like that's going to be amazing to carry over to many different areas. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so this is kind of going to be the first iteration. So it's kind of like 101, right? And I think the goal...
we're in beta.
Yeah, exactly. We're in beta, y'all. And, I'd like this to start on May 1st, which is cray, because that's in 3 weeks. We're going to shoot for that, though. So I will... there's going to be a link in the show notes. But also, if you go to bit.ly/indie-founder... I was like, wait, when is it? So it's indie-founder. We're going to have a feedback form, basically, where you can be like, what do you think that this should look like? And this is like the 101, right? So eventually we want to have a 201, a 301, where we're talking about, and not literally, but, where we're building on these things. And because you might already know your Fan Finder album launch stuff. You might be good to go on that. So like Cirque said, what about building out your e-com, right? Like getting really good at Google retargeting as well as Facebook retargeting for your store, making sure that your merchant center, your Google shopping connections are all firing properly, working properly, having it be an e-com focus. There's going to be all kinds of opportunities for us to really kind of just get people into like a clinic kind of existence, right? And so you can just pick and choose, like instead of paying for a consultation a few times to get your head around one thing, when you're in a training and you're like, I want to dive deeper into this. Having these kind of like master classes exist that are 3 months long or however long they take. I'm super excited about that. So the interest form that will be linked in the notes are for people who want to try this upcoming class. And we're going to limit it, pretty sure, to 15 slots because I'm going to be running this one. I want to make sure that everybody's kind of getting the individual attention they need, and also make sure, since it's the first iteration, that we're, prepared and we can kind of catch things if we're like, oh gosh, we didn't even realize that was something we were going to need to do, but everybody's going to get like a syllabus, right? Where, ahead of time, what assets you need before you even come into it. So there's going to be like some prerequisites. And then there'll also be a syllabus that tells you, these are the things that you will need to get, that you will want to have, money set aside to invest in, the things that are going to happen each week, so that people can also, work ahead if they want. And each week we'll meet together and just make sure that everybody got their homework done and answer specific questions for that group. So it's very similar, it's like Indies Live for that group call, except that everybody's going to be talking about the same thing because they're in the same place, So I think that that's going to be great. So that interest form basically will let you say like, hey, like raise your hand, like I would be interested in this. And then tell me a little bit more about what you think that should look like. We'll definitely see just what everybody says, but I'm stoked on it because I think this is something that we can develop into so much more education for indies to work, on their own stuff as well as to others. And then, getting into qualifying people for doing this for other folks, right, Cirque?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, number one is like a program like that, if we're able to develop it down and it's something that's really useful to people, then there's a lot of opportunity there to put experienced indies who have already done the process that a given class is going to be about many times, and installing them at the helm of it, and really bringing up other indies to create more indies. That's kind of our goal, is like, if we're going to get to 1 million people with creative businesses, sometime relatively around the time of my death or before, then we need to start creating indies who create indies. And that kind of feeds right into another program that we've got our eye on. It's a little bit further out in development because we really want to make sure it's robust, and it's something that we can't screw up in any way. Like, I mean, obviously this class has been in development for a long time, and it's also something we can't screw up. But with this, people are going to be starting businesses. So it's a little bit more high stakes, a little bit more, I will say we need more quality assurance on it than ever before. This, Corrin's running it. So I'm not too worried about it going that wrong. But with this, we've gotten a lot of requests from indies who have been maybe helping other indies in the group on the side, maybe serving as like their ad tech and getting paid an hourly or a consultation fee or something like that. So there's commerce happening in our group and services being provided. And none of it really has our stamp of approval. If someone has solicited you in the group, like, we didn't talk to them. You know what I mean?
I get messages from indies
that it's
like,
going on.
Yeah, like on a weekly basis, somebody will hit me up and be like, hey, this fellow indie hit me up and offered some services, which... I mean, don't do that to other people in the group, like unsolicited. But at the same time,
well, first of all, we'll kick you out. Like, you're gone.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, don't be trying to sell. Don't be shady in our group. Our group is supposed to be shade free.
Well, yeah, like,
so
poaching our group for clients, like, chill out, bro. But if someone was like, hey, I want to, like, for instance, like someone said publicly, like, hey, I need to pay someone to do this for me because I can't do it. And they weren't, at an IndieX kind of level of need. We have a very strict qualification for IndieX. And so, like someone like Ed stepped in and said, hey, I will offer you this rate to do it. And like, to a degree, that's fine. If you're out there looking through our group for people who need services and they didn't say it, and you sent them a personal message, like, get out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but we know that that's a thing. And so people will contact me. They'll send me a Facebook message and they'll say, hey, this fellow indie offered services. What are your thoughts on them? And right now, the answer is always, I don't know. Are they charging?
I don't have thoughts about that.
Yeah, I don't have any information about that individual's work, even if I've spoken with them and, they haven't run anything for me. So I can't really speak to it. And even if they've gone through all our training, there are people who have gone through our training who are ninjas at this point, and there are people who have gone through our training who, like, they were watching it 2x and like barely got it through. So like there's really just no qualifier, and I think that's something that we desire is to.
I'd like to say, just like public service announcement, our training is not Netflix.
Yeah.
So if you don't have your laptop out while you're watching it, there's a problem.
It's amazing. Actually, we get a lot of emails from people that are like, hey, this training doesn't work great on mobile. And I'm like, yeah, the execution of the training doesn't work great on mobile either. Like, what are you doing? And I know that some people want to watch it and like get it really in their heads while they're on their commute and stuff like that. So it's fine, and we want a good mobile site as much as anyone else in the world. But at the same time, like going through our training is definitely not enough to qualify somebody for anything. They need to test, they need to learn, they need to have, a variance of experience and challenges to be really skilled at it. So,
and for sure you need to do it multiple times for multiple different kinds of people in multiple different scenarios before, just anyone can come pay you for it. And so that's kind of what we're talking about. It's like, how do we raise the bar at this, for someone who needs services in the realm of what we teach, who maybe isn't ready for IndieX yet. Maybe they don't meet our qualification standards. Maybe they're not at that level in their career yet, or maybe they need a solution that's a little bit lower cost or lower ask than IndieX. And I totally get that. We just obviously can't provide it directly from our team. But like I said, we need to create indies who create indies. We get a lot of indies who are starting up their own professional services. I've consulted multiple times with a gentleman named Sam Wiseman, who literally, he was on the phone to me. He was like, dude, you changed my life because this advice you gave me, I was able to start marketing for this festival that spun off into multiple festivals I'm marketing for. Now I've got an agency.
That's amazing.
And that's my job. And I'm like, that's tight, dude. And so every one of our consults, he's just asking me questions about agency stuff. And he was like, I think he was the first one to mention it, or someone else was the first one to mention, like, can you just do an agency certification so that you can put all the answers to these questions in a training and you can give me kind of like a stamp of approval I can show clients? And I was like, okay, like one time, that's kind of a fluke. 2 times, it's like, maybe we should start thinking heavily about that.
Right.
And our homie's digital marketer do an agency certification. So it's not outside. It's not like laughable as a concept.
It
like,
must
it's definitely
be the
something that
best
happens.
thing ever. If DM's doing it, we're going to do it.
Right. Totally.
Someday we will do all the things that DM does.
Yeah. We're going to do our traffic and conversion summit. No. So yeah, like we want to be able to say this group of people or this person has learned all this stuff and done it enough times in enough different scenarios. And I've, like quizzed them on what they would do in this scenario versus that scenario to the degree where I feel confident that they can service an agency client. Basically like my hiring process, like how we brought on board Jack, how we plan to bring on board a few other people I got my eye on, like, that's that vetting process. How do we do that? Well, right now, a lot of it happens in like scoping out people in the group who are just doing really, really well with the training and understand it. But there's definitely a process to it, and it starts with our training, but there's got to be more than that if we want to put that stamp of approval. So we're working on, and it's in very primordial stages right now, but starting to come to the conceptualization of an agency certification so that, and this is the other side of it. It's like, yes, it's a need that's arising from our community. At the same time, it's a need out there in the top of the music industry, because like there's marketing agencies getting paid $50K retainers right now by major record labels that if you go to the artist that they're representing and you go to the artist they're representing and you go to their info and ads and there's no ads.
That's
and
so
it's
bad.
like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
so bad.
And it's, maybe, and there's a million reasons why that could be, right? Like it could be because they're not allocating budget to that artist for whatever reason. I mean, there's a million things, but it's one of those things where it's like, if nobody's going to make a standard that in the music industry for the execution of these things, well, then damn it, we will. Like, we'll make the standard. And then you can all comply or rebel, but nonetheless, there is some line of expectation from someone somewhere, and I think that's
right.
It not only is it like a service to indies who want to learn how to do this and like have a business in it, but also like it puts our flag in the sand. That's like, hey, if you're not going to do this, we're going to pick it up, and you can either comply or rebel, but our flag is here. So like, bring it.
Yeah, I think if we could put enough quality digital marketing out there that is tailored to musicians, we could end this trend of like, major record labels and their and every sub team within them not giving a fuck about digital marketing, not even considering it as like something that matters. And to a degree that's labels, to another degree it's artist teams, because like, artists, like, there's no reason a record label should care about your merchandise sales, right? Because they don't make, unless you got a 360 deal, they don't make that money.
Right.
But your team for sure should care.
Yeah.
For sure they should be trying to do that better. And there's just not a lot of great outfits out there, at least as far as I'm aware of. I haven't been very impressed by what I've seen.
Yeah.
And if we had more qualified outfits that are maybe like more willing than us to work with those level artists, because it is a basket of cats, dude. But but if you're, if we had more outfits like that, I think it would be better for the industry as a whole, because at least, like for instance, just to give you a small example of the impact of this not being a thing, is that there's no reason for anyone to develop an app that makes it easier for any musician to like retarget or run an e-com store.
Right.
There's no reason to develop that app because nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
But if we had all this attention and focus on those things, then there would be a market for that app. There would be a market for solutions for things that we commonly need. Right now, there isn't. And that's just some of the windfall we'd get from having a lot more agencies out there that are doing great digital marketing, specifically for musicians, entertainers, comedians, celebrities, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that I'm excited about that because not only is it, like I said, like providing some kind of service or authentication process, right? And more education, of course, but it's also like, if no one else is going to kind of put this expectation or this standard out in the ether of how music marketing is done, which we've talked about this before. Like, it's not like selling a can of Coke. It's not a drop shipping store where you just find the what's the hotness right now and have that in your store so that people will buy it. There's severe brand loyalty, and there's not as many companies, like I guess real estate could be a similar industry, but very different, right? There's not
very different. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but at the same, where you're saying like, this is more of a long-term, major scale kind of industry where you're making a life decision almost of your lifestyle, right? So just figuring out more about how to enable creatives to understand how their advertising is different. They should, like DM is a great resource, but also is very focused on some more short-term stuff or on services or, some of it might not feel like there's a natural jump to music from some of that content if you're like a DM member. So, I mean, I think that's where we want to kind of create this bridge of understanding between all of the standards that are digital marketing standards kind of across the different kinds of industries and the different types of products, services, et cetera. And then, but really specializing it so that you kind of don't have to, become so fluent in it that you can develop your own structure to be, marketing your music. And so the more that we can just keep doing that and making, the music industry realize that we're coming for them, maybe the sooner they'll step up their game. I would love to see that happen.
Totally. I think like just to speak to those differences, it's like there's tons of help out there if you want to use free products and services to build and monetize leads into customers.
Yeah.
There's only slight differences that make it so much harder for musicians, comedians, podcasters, YouTubers, is because when it comes to the using free products and services as the bait, that's a little harder because it's like, hey, I'm going to give you some free content. It's like, guy, all content is free. Welcome to 2019. What do you mean?
Exactly.
And then, so that makes it so much harder for us. And then also building and monetizing leads into customers. Well, we don't do leads as much. We're building and monetizing an audience. And there's so much more forward work and there's so much different considerations because I can't just drop a free PDF on people and be like, want to check out my YouTube channel? It's like, that's not how it works.
Right.
So
exactly.
There's significant differences and there's a definite hole is what I'll say. And for the past 2 years, we've been working to fill that, but I think it's so big and it's so important, especially as like, there's more entertainers than ever, and it's not slowing down. So I think, it's definitely time that we get serious about creating a standard for building a business out of that. And we're like, I'm not here to say that we're going to create it. Like we're the originators. Like there's tons of people out there working on this problem. Some of them great, some of them not so great. And we're just, one of them. But I like to think that with these steps, with these programs, we're in a position to take it very seriously and make some lasting change.
Yeah, well, and like, if we're the first ones to formalize it in the way that we do it, then great. I mean, I don't think it's not necessarily that we want to be the first or the only, be the authority on it. It's more that if no one else is going to do it, it needs done. you know, or if no one does it in a you know, substantial way, then we'll try to do it in a substantial way, you know? So I think that's more what it is than anything else. You know, nothing that we create is going to stay behind a paywall forever, right? Like so many of the concepts that we're implementing are things that are available all over the place. We just kind of finite it down. And the things we develop in the future, it'll be the same way, like knowledge spreads. So rather than fighting the idea that knowledge spreads, why don't we just try to make sure the right knowledge is spreading? And I think that's more what we're trying to do, is contribute to the overall community and the quality of the you know, information that is available.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword, because like we got to spread our message at the same time. We got to convince people that we're different than the other people spreading a similar message.
Right. Yeah.
And we also at the same time have to safeguard people who may try to enter their psyche looking very much like us.
Right.
And, you know, at the end of the day, they're going to recommend things that aren't helpful for people. Yeah. And it's like, you know, like that's a tight rope to walk, man.
Yeah.
And so like this really widens it up for us and gives us a bit more of a platform to stand on, because like we've been walking that tightrope for 2 years, and I really feel like we've done some good. I feel like we've helped people avoid some things that might be disastrous to their finances and careers.
Yeah.
And now it's time to really like take that wider, you know, like now that we have a proven model for kind of helping people avoid some pitfalls while also teaching them good information, I think we're really in a position to widen that scope, and the types of change we're going to be able to make in the year that follows is just a little bit more audacious, a little bit different than the types of change we've been able to make in our first 2 years. And I mean, it's been an amazing 2 years. As we've done, you know, way more than I would have anticipated, like, you know, in the months before starting Indepreneur. But yeah, it's definitely time to take it to the next level with these programs.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too, because, you know, I mean, if you've been following our company for any length of time, you notice that we don't really partner up very much. We don't really hitch our wagon with someone else's wagon, you know?
One of the most shared, literally the other day, Kenny sent Corrin in Slack. Kenny's our support specialist and now our community manager, now that he passed Digital Marketer's Community Manager certification. And Kenny sent Corrin a support message we got about like partnering up with someone. And she sent him back a link of the rapper Logic saying, I don't fuck with anybody.
Yeah. They basically asked him, like, how are you keeping your profile where you want it to be? You know, like, how are you keeping your life managed? And he was like, I don't go outside. I hang out with my dog and my fiance, and I don't fuck with nobody. I don't do anything. I just stay right here, you know?
I refuse to let any type of cancer into my life.
Yes, exactly. And so it's one of those things where like, it's quite feasible, right? And we get solicitations every day, you know, of people that no one knows about, who are trying to do music marketing or whatever. And we get emails from people that we know a lot of people know about, you know? And it's very difficult for us to partner because, well, first off, and you know, Circa and I have talked about this before, but you just don't know what that person's going to do later and if it's going to be really bad information. And if
that's
we
the biggest
someone
thing.
To
the
that
biggest
person,
thing is like, I don't know you well enough to know if in 2 years you're going to go off the deep end or if you're off the deep end now.
Yeah. I mean, and I would say like our company is the kind that like, if someone came in and was like, here's $1 million to just take this blind and refer your people to us.
Right.
Like, I honestly think we wouldn't do it. Like, which
I mean, 100% no.
I don't like, I honestly believe like my heart, Cirque's heart, Jack's heart, like I honestly believe that we would not do it, you know? Because there's so much more happening here. So, you know,
I'd be like, hey guy, like I really respect what you're trying to do and I really appreciate it. And like, thank you for reaching out, but also can you step out of the doorway? Good gunk.
Yeah.
That's what would happen.
Yeah, it's tough. And you know, when we find some people who like really think the way we think, like we'll be the first ones to share, you know, but it just feels like when I talk to people, sometimes I just feel like I'm speaking alien chatter, you know? So it's definitely like, we're going to be looking for that. But in the meantime, since we haven't really found this like beautiful marriage of, you know, someone to another group or person to partner with, it's like, well, then let's partner within ourselves, right? And we'll create partners and we'll create people who understand how these things work and, you know, create a community or continue to grow the community, right? That we have now of people who want to think about this stuff differently and make the music industry shift, you know? So yeah, I'm definitely stoked on that.
Oh, dude. And it's like, dude, you could offer me, like, we get affiliate and like JV, which means joint venture offers like all the time.
Right.
And you know, some of them are like potentially lucrative, I guess. Like at this point, like it's very difficult for me to quantify like who cares about, you know, some thousands of dollars. Like, you know, we all get to work for creative people and do creative things every day. Like, I don't need another whatever $1,000.
Right.
You know, it's just meaningless. But we get them, and I would turn down any amount of money and for free tell all of our indies about someone like Basic Printer or someone like Nick Miller, who have all the fit fun in the world and who bust their ass to really do something special and who take it seriously, than I would ever JV with some other company or startup that like claims to be aligned with our mission, you know, like, because I see them work and I know they work and they do stuff.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, and so that said, there are two things that I want to mention about, you know, a couple of things we have upcoming that fall in line with these things. And one of them is the Profitable Musicians Summit. It's starting on April 22nd. It's over 24 people who are going to be speaking about various things. And you have probably seen ads or convos about this if you are following anybody else in the music industry. I did kind of a discussion about the buddy system, and it is free. So we're going to put a link in the show notes, but it is free. At the same time, like, keep in mind that, you know, we haven't vetted all the content of the summit. We don't know if all of it is what we would do. I know that there are some people in there teaching things that we would do, right? But nonetheless, like, gathering more information about what kind of things are available, that's always a good thing to do, right? And you can always ask us. I think we've been pretty clear in the Indies group. If you're like, hey, somebody taught this strategy or whatever, I would say we're pretty honest, Cirque, wouldn't you, in the group about what we think about different types of content and strategies out there?
I try not to actually talk about content, good or bad, unless it's like, you know, unless it's like someone I learned digital marketing from. Yeah. Just because, like, that, if I were to talk about the good content a whole lot, you know, that's like, you know, unless it's like revelatory, unless it's something indies need to know. But if I were to talk about that, then it would be weird when I don't talk about the things I don't think are good. So I just kind of keep my mouth shut. But yeah, I like to think that we definitely steer people away from things that are 100% a bad idea.
Right, exactly. So I do think that this summit is really cool. I think this is the second iteration. The first iteration was last year. I know, like, Bree Noble, who is running it, is a strong advocate of women in music. And there are a lot of cool people who will be there, especially Kevin Bruner from CD Baby is going to be on there, right? So, and I'm going to be on there. So, and speaking of that, of CD Baby, we're going to be at CD Baby DIY Con this year, which is going to be in August.
Oh, I didn't know we could announce that.
We're announcing it. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
I'm so psyched.
Yeah. So there's still a lot to be figured out about it, right? But I would definitely suggest that you grab tickets. It's going to be in Austin, Texas in August, and it is going to be stupid hot and we're all going to sweat together and it's going to be a fun time. That's going to be exciting, but I definitely, I think that those are two things that we're involved in that we feel confident that you can get a lot of good information from. And the biggest thing that we can always stress is like, think about the buddy system, right? And what you know about the buddy system, and apply what you know to any strategy that is presented to you. If it skips the buddy system, it's probably a trick. It's probably a one trick pony, right? Like always stay loyal to the buddy system, no matter what. But those are a couple of things that I'm excited about because I like to give people the opportunity to get more information, especially because we're only 3 people. There's only so much that we can do. Same thing with like opening up into this mentorship class. Think about how many ideas are going to be bouncing off each other like concurrently at the same time because 15 people are focused on the same thing right now. That's really exciting. And so I'm really stoked to see what else we can get accomplished in our mentorship line of thinking over the next year.
100%. Yeah. I think there's so much opportunity and I love that a majority of our strategic partnership is inwards. Like a majority of our strategic partnership has to do with empowering other indies in our community who have been in there a long time. Corrin was in our community before she became co-founder of this company. Jack was in our community. Ed was in our community. So it's awesome that we get to focus there and we don't do so much strategic partnership that's maybe advantageous for us and whoever we're partnering with, but it's at the expense of our community, which is something that a lot of companies end up doing. So I'm very proud of that. I love that about our company and our community, and I'm loving that we get to continue that trend. These 2 team ups are like the first ones we've done, I think. And and so like, yeah, and also like the office that you're seeing right now, if you're on YouTube, you're in my office with me and it's 100 yards away from my house, which makes like a 200 square yard like field, which I do not leave. And so the fact that I'll be at CD Baby is very rare. So definitely come out and see me. I can't wait to see all of you guys and meet all of you. And I'm very excited about it. And definitely, for sure, now's the time to get tickets because obviously, with live events, the tickets get more expensive as time goes on. So definitely grab those. And I'm very excited. And then obviously, like, I mean, it goes without saying, but I'm definitely going to say it. Like, it's so cool that the Profitable Musicians Summit reached out to you, and asked Corrin to be a speaker. And I'm so happy about that. Like, it's so cool. And I think that Corrin's going to provide a whole lot of value in her talk. So I'm very excited that all the indies get to kind of peer in on that for free. That's awesome. Yeah,
I think it's really cool too. And that's one thing that really aligned with me is that Bree Noble, who is running this, all of the information is available for free. And there are things that you can purchase after the fact, if you want certain notes or if you want lifetime access or all of these other things. But, I believe that she genuinely wants to make the space where independent musicians reside a better place. And so that's why I was really excited. And there are some really great speakers that she has kind of presenting. But more than anything, like our psyches align in our intent. And I think that's something that just has to exist. So, excited to share that with everybody.
Hell yeah. And yeah, like if anyone else out there is listening who has wanted to partner with us in the past, hey man, just make it free. Yeah.
Just give
we'll come to your thing.
Ridiculous amount of value and we'll consider it.
Totally. Like I can't stress that enough is that like, hey man, I will speak anywhere for any length of time for free. You don't have to pay me nothing.
Right.
Just like make it free, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think that's if you do see us at any of these events, that will always be our goal. Is like more than we're trying to sell anybody anything. It's going to be like, here is the very best information that we can possibly squash into whatever amount of time we're given, you know? So, but yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's to the point where obviously, you know, Indepreneur is growing, the community is growing. And as the company grows, we just want to bring more of that benefit back to our members and back to our peeps. So, I can't wait to see at least 15 of your shining faces in the mentorship group that kicks off this next month.
Yeah. And like, there's been, I think, like 4 big announcements here, you know, on this episode. So like, definitely, if it ever seems like we're ghosts, like, this is what we've been up to, guys. This is what we're up to. And, so like, we definitely apologize if there's been a little bit of spottiness with, you know, reports of new things here at Indepreneur. Obviously, we've got new trainings coming. We've got updates to the existing trainings coming. That's never stopped. And obviously, we have new videos every week, new podcasts every week. But yeah, like, things can seem a little sparse around the group, or it seems like our attention might be diverted. But know that we're always working on the next step for you guys, and we're hard at work at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah. Well, I think this has been success. This is a big catharsis, right? We got it out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we've been kind of playing catch up for a little bit. And now it's like, oh, it's spring. So we're going to bloom just like everything else outside, you know?
Yeah. That's a fantastic metaphor, Corrin.
I try to be as fantastic as possible, man. You know me.
Well, yeah. I'm glad to be back in the hot seat with my co-hosts, and you'll for sure see us next week for another exciting edition of Creative Juice.
Yes, sir.